just took on a new client for YouTube. We basically 10x'd his views, absolutely destroying it. And I was talking like, listen,
I mean,
yeah, baby,
DJ Fonzie here clearly coming on time with the sound.
If you're not using AI in your daily life now, you're not going to be relevant within the next 5 years. I started using AI. I quit my day job 3 months later.
My beef with AI is when people outsource their thinking.
AI is going to create a pretty significant skill gap. How can I use AI to cut out some of that redundant, unnecessary thinking?
What are some of the maybe top 1 or top 2 questions that you encounter every single day? How can the expert differentiate themselves?
The entire market has been saturated with postable clips. We cannot just have postable clips. How do we elevate that to the next level so people are like, wow, that's different? The entrepreneur, we're always thinking about scale. How do I scale this up, scale this up, scale this up? The problem with scale is...
Guys, welcome back to Content is Profit. Today we have a very special guest. We connected with him thanks to Seth, also an expert in the industry and dear friend. And it was so intriguing, the conversation, because he's building these incredible podcast systems. He is in the same industry on the production side as us. And he's like, I have this massive, incredible newsletter about AI. And maybe he was able to turn Francie into an AI lover.
No. But it was very insightful. If you have thought about using AI in some of your processes to free your time, increase your revenue, learn from today's guest.
Yes.
And also, if you want to know his strategy to build status with his Instagram, it's something that really surprised me, how he grew it, right? He grew it from 300 views per reel to 10, 20, 30. He even has one with 150,000 views consistently. I went ahead and asked him, how did you do this? And he went on and shared his process. Very, very insightful. Maybe a strategy that we might adopt here on.
100%. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode. And here we go.
No music today?
We're driving right in, bro. You didn't listen?
I know. I like the music sometimes,
Mark, welcome to the show, man. I'm stoked. We connected this week, and Fonzie is finding out about you today, man. What's going on? Your targeting is not on point. No, I'm kidding.
No.
He likes throwing people under the bus. He can tell, Mark. But I've been looking at all your stuff, and I'm impressed, to say the least. You are extremely knowledgeable in AI, podcasting. Your social media is on point, right? Lots of traffic that goes through there. And I'm very curious to dive into your whole platform, right? How are you doing this, and how are you growing your own NJC, your own business, your new newsletter that you're very proud of and very invested in, right? So to start, why don't we dive in a little bit into what you have built so far as your business, right? What is it that you do? And how can you help the person that is listening right now?
Sure. Well, it all starts when I was working an insurance job that I hated. I graduated from college. I got into an insurance, hated it every minute of it. Woke up every morning staring at the ceiling like, why do I have to go to the office? It's terrible. I was getting, by the way, mad respect and love to all the insurance people out there, because your entire life is getting yelled at because the premium went up or the claim was denied, or I don't like your face, or whatever it is. So I'm much more confident in having a lot more fun in this content creation world, because I was like, Joanna, my wife, I'm sick of it. I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm going to start something else. I tried all these different business ideas, eventually fell in love with creating content, with creating video, creating podcasts, with the connections I was building. And people started buying from me. People started paying me for my services. And then one day, about 2 years into that side hustle, I started using AI. I lost a key team member, started using AI, quit my day job 3 months later because AI just really exploded the productivity for myself and my team.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back. Right now, we're helping to produce quite a few shows, podcasts. We're doing a lot of media. We love YouTube at my agency. There's something about YouTube that's just amazing.
Yep.
And, just really leveraging AI to kind of power a lot of these engines.
Yeah, I love that. So just for those listening right now, step one get a job with lots of rejection and people insulting you. So you get thick skin when you get into this content game, you know. Haters do nothing to you.
That's what you did not do. Just saying.
That's what I did not do. He did. He went on a sales job, you know, get all that rejection.
I was selling gym memberships for like 3 years. So I did get a ton of no's.
I hid behind the computer, you know. My dream was to sell a lot of stuff without showing my face. But guess what? You got to talk to people and you got to shake hands. It's part of the process, regardless you're working online or not. Yeah. So you mentioned, obviously, AI, huge topic, right? Big leverage on your business. How can people start using it inside of their business, right? Like, what are some of the maybe first processes that you can delegate, if you want to put it that way, to AI so people can free some more of their time? And, you know, after they free their time, where do they put their attention? Do they put their attention into, you know, revenue generating activities? Do they put their attention into, you know, X, Y, and Z? I'm extremely curious on what was that process for you?
Well, it's a big question. And so we can kind of go into like what AI is great at, what AI is not so good at, what AI, where it really excels. But I think at first stance, what you need to do is you need to look for what are the problems that I have within my company. And I know when I started, I was almost forced into AI because I lost a key team member who was doing a lot of copywriting for me, writing emails, blogs, things like that. He left. He said, Mark, I'm going to Spain. I'm going to university. I'm living my best life. See you later. And I was like, oh crap, put up a job listing, couldn't find anyone. So I started doing the work myself. Yeah. And I was like, this is taking forever. Yeah. This is just taking me so much time, so much effort. And then I stumbled across this AI program that would help with this copywriting. And BizBros, immediately I saved 90% of my time. I was using AI to generate tons of copy. I would go in on the back end and optimize it and clean it up. And I'm like, this is amazing. I just took something that used to take an hour and now it takes 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. This is nuts. And I was hooked. I trained my team member on it. I started looking for all sorts of different resources. So I think that's where it starts. It starts by talking to your team, identifying tasks that take a long time, or maybe tedious or very repetitive, and then say, how can I maybe automate this? How can I reduce the amount of clicks? If it takes you 10 clicks to do something now, how can I do that in 3 clicks, 2 clicks? Maybe I can automate it completely. And that's, I think, where automation and AI gets really exciting. And that's where the next big businesses are going to come from. Yeah.
I think, you know, Mark, you said something really interesting, right? Obviously, you know, what is like that thing that you might not be very fan of doing, but I think there's a step before that I've personally experienced too. And that I think most people are not doing. People are seeing AI as like the full thing, the full shebang that's going to take, you know, your process from, you know, from the very beginning to the very end. So an example is like we've collaborating with this AI company where, you know, it's almost like you give the raw footage and then at the very end, it gives you like the full episode, all edited, perfect with clips and copy and all this, right? This is a whole process. But inside of that whole process is a bunch of steps in between. What I think is happening, a lot of people are not putting enough intention and attention to those like little steps, because you can mix and match tools here and there, but at the end of the day, the principles of like your own process, for example, we talked a little bit about this in our call, where it's like you're designing this incredible podcast system that automates like the, you know, the whole relationship aspect of it, which is really exciting. But it's like those micro tasks that could be like from step 1 to step 3. Here we save X amount of time. And then I take it from step 3 to step 6. And then maybe on step 6 to step 9, there's another like AI leverage that we can pull and start improving that way. So in your specific case, right, you know, yours was the copywriting. Now, how have you expanded on other parts of your process where you're leveraging AI? Do you see it that way? I don't know if like I explain myself, but in our specific cases, it could be like selection of clips. It could be, you know, writing the social copy for it, right? At the end of the day, it's like, okay, we have a massive weekly content map. Where are the points that we can leverage, you know, between human and AI, right? So do you see it the same way, or like what's something different that maybe you have noticed there?
Yeah, I do agree. I think leveraging AI to power your human creative, critical thinking is I think the juncture in AI that we're at right now. I don't think you're really at a place where you can just set AI free and just let it go and just do whatever and have open conversations with customers and clients and prospects and whatnot. It's going to lead to I think we'll get there, but right now we're not ready. It's just there's too many weird things with hallucinations and context and some issues that go on there. Although I could go down a rabbit hole. Meta just released their new Llama 3.1, which is based off 405 billion parameters. So you get a lot more context. Again, you can get all that news at AIupdate.ai, which is where I'm handling that. But let me back it up just a second. And I'll give you a really cool example of a way that I've used AI and automation to power my creative thinking and my critical thinking. So I recently had to hire a new team member. Business is growing, need to hire a new team member. So what I did is I went to a job listing and posted, hey, I'm hiring this new position. If you'd like this position, please go to this website and fill out the job request. Okay. They go and they fill out this job request, and it's a series of questions on a form. This is a Google form. You might use Typeform. You can even do this with your calendar. Yeah. So anyway, they go in and I got about, 3 or 4 dozen responses on these questions. The questions were like, how well do you speak English? What is what KPIs are you looking for this position? How would you improve KPIs? What's an experience that you've had in the past? What's the password? Because anytime I have team members apply, I want to know they're paying attention to detail. I want to make sure that they're putting in some sort of like keyword or code where they put on the original job listing. Okay. Well, this is where AI plugs in. All those answers automatically get funneled over to ChatGPT. ChatGPT, which I've programmed and prompted, assesses all the answers, all the responses, and then spits it out on the back end and gives every single application a rating from 1 to 10. And so instead of having to go through and look at resumes and look at clips and look at examples, ChatGPT has already done that for me based on the responses. So instead of having to look at 3, 4, 5 dozen answers, I only had to look at 5. Yeah. I only had to look at the 8, 9s, and 10s. And I found 2 really good people. I only needed 1 position, but I hired the other person because they were such a perfect fit. Cool. And so that's an example, I think, of leveraging AI and automation, particularly within the context of forms. If people are filling out questions in forms, you can create really unique, interesting, customized responses for both you, your team, and potentially prospects in some different ways. Yeah. No, that's really exciting. And I think, what are some of the main questions that, come from your newsletter on AI, right? Because I think you speak to creators, or you speak to business owners, you speak to in that world. And I think some of those questions are, navigating through the people that are listening to our show as well, and I think on our case is okay, look at your process, look at what are the things that you can either save some time or create a little bit more effective work for you and your team. But on your community, what are some of the maybe top 1 or top 2 questions that you encounter every single day? Well, I think one of the most common questions is, how do I get a better response out of these chatbots? At this point, everybody should be using ChatGPT, on a fairly regular basis, or, Claude or Meta AI or Grok or whatever you want. You should be using one of these AI tools regularly because it helps you see blind spots, things that you haven't necessarily thought of before. It's going to see that for you. Yeah. It's going to give you an idea. Also, it's a great way to prep if you're interviewing to hire a new person. Yeah. Right. You can't be an expert in everything, but let's say I'm hiring an email marketer, for example. Let's say I'm not an expert email marketer and I don't know anything about email marketing, and I want to hire someone. I don't know the questions to ask. Yeah. Right. You can ask the standard, what's your biggest weakness, or, that type of thing, but that only gets you so far. But if I can get on a call, and before I get on that call, I use a chat bot to say, these are the key performance indicators. These are reasons why people succeed. These are the things. These are the specific indicators why people fail. This is useful on these different tools. Well, then I can go and I know the right questions to ask that potential team member. And I know the at least the responses. So I learned to talk the talk more quickly. That's cool. So anyway, that's another kind of, I think, great way of helping see your blind spots. Yeah, absolutely. Interesting. Mark, I am one of, I'm not going to say one of, but you are. I've been an AI hater for a little bit. Not going to lie, he loves to work slow, ineffective. No, not at all. Not at all. My beef with AI is when people outsource their thinking, and I agree with you when you're using it for a very specific
tasks and, processes. Like I've used it that way as well. Right. And it is efficient. It does help, maybe certain types of copy that, doesn't require that much of your intention. Right. For example, but I feel like there's a lot of expert-based businesses that they are, right? Their brain, their knowledge is their product in a way, and they're outsourcing that into AI as well, right? And for me, I feel like that's a little bit of a deal breaker, or, a little bit of a turn off when I know if somebody's just crafting everything that they're saying with AI, right? Even their idea crafting, because I understand the value of using AI to come up with multiple ideas. But for me personally, I think the fact that somebody can generate multiple ideas or can generate, certain amount of ideas under certain circumstances is proof that they are extremely educated in a very specific topic, and they have the capacity of, doing those connections in their brain, right? They see something and they're immediately able to relate it to something that they're experts on. And then they're able to express that into their audience. So I'm curious, right? What is your point of view on that, right? Somebody that might be their face of their business on an expert-based business, right? Consultants, for example. How do you see outsourcing their thinking in a way, right? Are you against it? Are you with it? And again, this is right part of the discourse that we're having here, or is it just strictly used as a supportive tool?
So I think it's a really valid concern, Luis. And so I think there's a few things to look at, but I think we need to start by at least the way I think about it is there's everything that we produce. Everything that we produce demands resources in order to get the production out. Yep. Right. So, maybe that's the time, the hours that I have in the day, or maybe it's the brain power that I have. We've all been to that point where it's like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and our brain's just like, I'm done. Mush. It's time it's time to watch Netflix videos. Right. And, that's because your brain gets fatigued. It gets tired throughout the day, or maybe because you ran out of coffee or whatever the reason is. Regardless, at a certain point. So what I'm interested in doing is, well, how can I use AI to cut out some of that redundant, unnecessary thinking? Okay. The flip side that I think that you've highlighted here, Luis, which I think is really important, is that AI is going to create a pretty significant skill gap. Okay. Because what ends up happening here, somebody that's an absolute beginner, never has even touched, let's use email marketing example, never written email, never set up an account. All of a sudden they can use ChatGPT. They can use AI to start developing a strategy, getting out a pretty decent email immediately with a decent strategy. They're going to understand the value of titles. They're going to understand DMARC setup. They're going to understand hooks. They're going to understand responses and pull. They can have a pretty comprehensive understanding of the email marketing within 10 minutes. Okay. In the past, the way you develop that type of understanding is by repetition. It's by getting there and doing it and connecting the lines in your brain, like you've mentioned, right? Yeah. So what happens here? What you have is we have a ton of beginners who have never actually done something, but they're using AI to get to, say, a level 5, 6, or 7. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, those people are going to start eating up a ton of the jobs and a ton of the tasks that were typically hired by the people that had put in 1,000 hours to get to that point. Yeah. Okay. So now you've got this point where you've got beginners. Nobody's in the middle because everyone's just using AI to outsource that work to get to level 7 because level 7's good enough. Yep. And then what happens at the top? You've got the experts, and that's where we should be. That's where we need to be in our roles. We need to be the experts because not only have we used AI to skill up, but we've used that 1,000, 10,000, 50,000 hours of experience to get to that level where we can see that crazy response come in from AI where it tells you to, like, I don't know if y'all saw this, Gemini was leveraging Reddit posts to give advice on their new Google search. Wow. So someone asked it, how do I get my pizza, the cheese to stick to my pizza? And the AI recommended using glue. to get the pizzas. Now, if you're not using your brain, if you're level 1, if you've never cooked a pizza before, you might say, okay, glue. All right, let's try it. But if you're an expert, you might say, you know what? Maybe AI has got something wrong here. Yeah, maybe it's hallucinating. So yeah, exactly. It's tripping, and there's going to be a lot of that. So yeah, I think that's an interesting point. We use AI to enhance our level 10 skills, and make us extremely competent. But if we throw out critical thinking, it's going to be the doom of your business, because then you're competing with all the level 1s. You're not competing with all the level 10s, which is where you want to be. Yeah,
I think that also creates some sort of ripple effect into pricing, right? Because then maybe level 5, 6, 7 that are just using AI to, develop their product and their outputs, they're going to be able to do it faster, right? And then maybe more volume. They're going to say, well, we can charge a little bit less, right, to the market to undercut some people. And then it's going to be a race to the bottom. So on that topic, right, how can the expert differentiate themselves, right? And still, I'm not putting away that the experts do not use AI at all, right? Again, we've I think already established that AI is a great tool for multiple things that we have to do inside of our business. But how, in your eyes, that expert can differentiate themselves from the level 5, 6, and 7s, right? So so they can set up themselves to win. Is it, positioning? Is it the audience that they're talking to, the type of clients that they're looking for? What is it in your mind that is, can cause a differentiation and, build a sustainable expert-based business?
I heard Alex Hormozy talking about this topic the other day. And, as an entrepreneur, we're always thinking about scale. How do I scale this up, scale this up, scale this up? And I think that's important. I think systems are important. The problem with scale is often it comes at the cost of quality. Mm-hmm. Yep. It comes at the cost of quality. How can I do it bigger, faster? And at that point, you reduce quality. So I think, and I've been talking to my team a lot about this, is we cannot sacrifice quality for speed. We need to double down and triple and quadruple down on quality. And let's talk about content for a second.
Yep.
How many people on social media are sharing Zoom clips of them and someone that they had an interview with on social media now?
Quite a bit, I would say.
It's completely flooded. It's completely flooded. You go back 5 years ago to when me and my team were when I was just starting to create videos, it was much rarer. It took a lot of effort to do it. But now, heck, after a Riverside conversation's done, it's going to give us 10 to 15 clips that are pretty good. Yeah. They're pretty good. They're a level 5.
Yeah. They're postable. They're postable.
Exactly. They're postable. Yeah. And what's happening is, John Smith, who has his AC company, is just taking those and posting them. And so the entire market has been saturated with postable clips. We cannot be postable. We cannot just have postable clips. How do we elevate that to the next level so people are like, wow, that's different?
Yeah.
That comes with the quality of the video camera. That comes with the quality of actually having a studio like y'all have there. That comes with creating contextual B-roll. It comes with double checking the subtitles, make sure the captions are okay. It comes with making sure that the initial thumbnail on the Instagram reel is something that'll make someone stop. It comes with the copy that's at the bottom that makes someone say, ooh, this creates curiosity, or this makes me upset, or what did Kamala Harris say today? It's got to be more than just Riverside gave me 15 clips. I got a bunch of clips from AI. Let's just go and post it and move on to my next project.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Across the board.
Yeah. Like I think, we both move in the same industry, right? You guys also offer a service that's similar, right? You guys do incredible work. And it's funny because like with the people that come to the studio, we've had people with conversations where they flat out say, oh yeah, I can go do this in whatever software, right? I'm like, perfect. Be my guest. Go try it out, because like you said, it's going to be to that level 5. And I think one of the elements that on our side, or at least me personally think is one of the most important things, is consistency, right? It's like, okay, let's say you get through that initial high of achieving the clips per, like specifically on this like topic that we're talking about, those clips, those talking head clips, how long are you going to be able to sustain that? How long are you going to be able to like still be excited about selecting the best quality message to share with the world? You know, do you have a powerful mission like yours, for example, which is to help 1 million people with AI, right? That's a powerful mission that is going to keep you excited and motivated to keep sharing your message and inspire your team and inspire, you know, them to elevate their skills, right? And most people, I dare to say this, most people won't do that, won't stay consistent, even if they use these tools, right? So I want to, that's my belief, because we've seen it in a few cases with people that come here through the studio. So think other people like you or us that we take on that mission to help them with their message in that sense. And you just broke down how we cannot just be possible, like you said. Like there's other elements that we have to start considering, right? And elevating our skills as a creator, as an entrepreneur, as a message, to be different in this online world that we have today, right? And I think, you know, from day one, we started with Facebook Lives, the lowest friction possible ever, right? It was just like, well, share a story and it's published on live. That's it. That was a podcast, right? Mm-hmm. And we're like quality of the message over quality of the production 100% of the time. And then we can start adding these things. We can start adding team members and we can start adding AI and these tools. And you create your own system at the end of the day that will help you stay consistent, right? Right now, you've been publishing for how long? 5, 6, 7 years, right? It's been pretty consistent.
Just about 5 years. I mean, over 1,000, well over 1,000 YouTube videos on my primary channel. We've got over 1 million views on that. So yeah. And consistency, well, it's interesting too, right? Because consistency and making sure that someone's consistent with their production week over week, month over month, year over year, that's really how my business started, right?
Yeah.
You know, but, and again, I think this is where AI plays a really important role in business owners considering where AI should be used, because AI is going to, it saves so much time that being consistent is becoming easier and easier and easier because of these tools.
Yeah.
Because these tools. So in every single industry, every single company, we need to be thinking about, okay, how can we leverage the AI to be consistent and to have speed, but also elevate our services so that we're not competing against the beginners. We're in a different category. Like you said, say, oh, you want to go do it by yourself? Mazel tov. Love it.
Yeah. We show you the process. Here it is. Like
exactly.
Almost. Yeah.
All right,
but we need to be at a different level saying, okay, you're not getting any views versus when we institute like some B-roll of Maximus Decimus Meridius, the ultimate gladiator, fighting off the emperor, that's going to get someone to watch for 3 seconds longer.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way I think we need to be thinking.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The contextual B-rolls are a must, right? And I feel like, it's not there yet. I want to transition here a little bit. That's okay. AI, absolutely amazing. Sign up to the newsletter.
Wait, now that was it? You're not a hater anymore?
No, and, I'm thinking about it. I'm gonna subscribe to the list. You know, the newsletter AIupdate.ai. Go subscribe right now. I'm gonna subscribe. You know, and I'm gonna give Mark an opportunity to turn me from hater to I won't say lover, but you know, something positive in regards to AI. I do want to dive a little bit into, of course, content is profit, right? And I'm curious, I'm seeing your social media here, right? You have your Instagram has a lot. It seems that it pulls a lot of views, right? I'm not sure how much traffic exactly. Is it also direct into your offers or whatnot, or how many conversations is it starting for you? I went down all the way to like March 2023, and I can see that there's a big jump on views, that you had kind of like a couple hundreds and then it exploded. So I'm very curious to see strategy wise, how did you grow that, right? Is it organic? Are you doing paid? But I'm also looking at the consistency that you have on YouTube, right? Absolutely amazing. You publish a lot, create a lot of videos. Obviously you have your podcast as well that you publish in there. So overall, the main question is, how is your content tied to the profits of your business, right? What is that source? Are you pulling source of traffic and conversations through all these channels, or are you attaching your profit mainly to, let's say, the conversations that you're starting in the podcast. We're pretty open with that. We've said multiple times here in Content is Profit, that is the main way we actually have built our business, is the relationships that we manage to create here on the podcast. They end up, a lot of them, some of them, right, creating opportunities, having those conversations. So I'm very curious, out of all these assets that you have built, right, what is driving profit into your business?
Well, there's a couple things. And I will say that one of the most important things, something I'm starting to really get more serious about, is being able to track and attribute traffic. Where's the traffic coming from?
Yep.
You know, and that was, I think, again, one of the, I don't want to call it a mistake, but when I was first starting out, how do we put all these systems in place so we can be consistent, so we can crank out all the content? Mm-hmm. But now now me and my team are thinking about, okay, why the hell are we even doing this? Why are we even making the content? And the reality is, like you said, we want to generate income for our clients. And so making sure that, you know, for example, I just took on a new client for YouTube. We've basically 10x his views, 10x all of his
awesome.
His subscribers are up 10 times since last month. So we're just absolutely destroying it. And I was talking to him, like, listen,
I mean, yeah, baby, DJ Fonzie here clearly coming on time with the sound.
Sorry, Mark, keep going.
Again, one of the reasons I love YouTube, by the way, well, we can talk about YouTube here in a minute, but we need to create trackable links. We need to know where the traffic's coming from. If no traffic is coming from Instagram, what's going on with Instagram? If no traffic is coming from here, what's going on there? And how can we fix it? That's also part of the advantage of working with an agency too, is you've got someone who's not just working on their own project, but they're working on multiple projects, so they can start to see trends and things of that nature. So I think that's a big deal. You know, for me personally, I think that the best income generator for me has been my podcast. Basically every client that I have has either been a guest on my podcast and decided to become a client, or they keep seeing my content pop up day after day after day. And this is another unique problem. About 4 months ago, I brought on a new client who said, Mark, I've been following you for 2.5 years. Now I'm ready for my podcast.
Wow.
I've been watching your posts on LinkedIn every day. Now I'm ready. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, how can we get that from 2.5 years to like 2.5 months?
Right. Yeah. To 2 weeks.
Yeah. I remember a very specific graphic. I think it was a Frank Kern video where he has like piles of rice, right? And he has like this massive pile of rice on one side, a medium one, and then a little one, right? He goes, hey, this massive pile of rice right here, this is, your customers, a year from now. A year away from you. Then this middle one is about 4 months away from you, and then this little one here, this is the people that are ready to buy today, right? And almost with the message of we need to start educating our people or bridging the gap between that decision making, and helping them through that journey. But like you said, like that person 2 years ago wasn't that big pile, right? And then, not so long ago, it moved all the way down to that. So for those that have not started to create consistently, please start. Start leveraging, right? Like go check out the newsletters, go check out, Mark's podcast. Hopefully you're enjoying this and you follow what we say. A lot of the message, we resonate so much because it's very similar. And I love that question that you said. It's like, how can we reduce that time from those 2 years to that? So have you guys started exploring that? Like, have you guys tried something new in your content that you've seen that is working for you on that side?
Yeah. So it's specifically in the realm of podcasting. I really think it comes down to creating a great system for turning guests into clients. I think this is the fastest way to monetize a show. I really do. And I've been doing this for over 5 years now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was interesting, I recently reached out to all of my clients and said, hey, y'all, just wondering, how are you following up with guests after they've been on your show? Are you sending them an email? Do you know how many of them were sending out emails to their guests? Zero, not one. Yeah. None of them were sending out any. So I'm thinking like we're spending all this time, all this money to get the guest on the show, and then nothing is happening.
Yeah.
It's a complete breakdown. So I went to all of them and said, listen, all of you, listen up. If you're interested, for free, including your service, I will do I will send a series of 4 to 5 emails to all of your guests after they're on to A, help promote the podcast, and B, try to nurture them into scheduling a sales call with you. Yep. And just last month, one of my clients sent me this message. He's like, Mark, Tony, I can't remember his name. Tony just scheduled a call with me. This is amazing. Thank you. And it's like, that's, I think, something that we could really leverage. And it was as simple as this. Once the podcast episode is complete, once my team has completely processed the whole podcast, that team member who does the finalization fills out a form with stuff like, here's a link to the blog, here's a link to the YouTube, here's a link to the podcast, here's a link to the calendar, all the various specific information. And then that sets off an automation sequence that goes to that guest to nurture the campaign. And then we go on the back end and we just review the stats, see what's being opened, what's being clicked, what's not, and we tweak accordingly.
That's so cool. I remember when we first started, the show, heavily on the first 100 episodes, we put a lot of intention into the relationship of it. And throughout the last 4 years, we've gone better. We've stepped back a little bit, depending on if we have a solo episode type of phase, or we can definitely do a lot better. But I remember it was a mix of, hey, thank you for coming to the show right after the interview, to then a couple of days in hey, I really enjoyed that conversation, through a text message, right? Or a selfie. And then a week later was the email with the release of the episode. And that just really, really helps. Specifically, if you're in the industry that that we live in, let's say you go to a live event, then we will see a lot of our guests there, and it was almost like a reunion, and it was incredible. And we met them through the show, and then we just continue conversations like that. And in our case, was not super focused on sales. It was more like, hey, let's collaborate at some point, right? And most of those turn into incredible opportunities for us that allow us to grow. So like you said, I think we're on the same page. Podcasting is a superpower in the having a podcast, like you mentioned, the way that you use it is a superpower in this world, and it's gonna speed up your progress, specifically to probably bigger opportunities than just selling to an audience that might take 2 years to get to know you and trust you to be able to click that buy button for a low ticket item, right? So I think it's super valuable, and thank you for bringing that up. And we encourage people to go connect. We're gonna put all your links right below, so you got to do scroll down a bit and connect with Mark. And if you want our help, we're happy to support as well.
Yeah. I'm curious, Mark, about your Instagram and your thoughts on podcast clips. We actually just did an episode on that, right? What are your thoughts on podcast clips? We see, like you mentioned, right? Now there's so many, and again, you can add value in many different ways, try to get creative there. But obviously your clips have very good amount of views, right? 10,000, 12,000, there's some that are 20, even 50,000, right? You also have different sorts of content, right? Different segments, your reaction videos, we're talking about them. Those are absolutely amazing. I'm sure there's some strategy kind of top of funnel that maybe you can attract some people top of funnel, get them interested, maybe redirect them into your podcast. But I feel for podcasters, and I would say that your Instagram is mainly a podcaster first Instagram. At least that is the first impression that it gives me. And I'm curious, for podcasters, it's very challenging to grow their Instagram based on clips, right? Hey, I don't have too much time. I want to, obviously, the effort that I'm putting in already with the podcast, leverage that, create clips, put them out there, be famous, turn me into Joe Rogan, right? But, I feel like you've been one of the few that have done it very successful that I've seen.
I want to clarify, Joe Rogan was already huge before he started clipping.
Yeah. It's a joke. It's a joke.
I know, it's not for you. It's for maybe some people that tune in now and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this because whatever.
Yeah, it requires a lot of consistency and frequency and hard work. So I'm curious, right, on how do you see the role of Instagram? And maybe one of the things that you and your team notice is that, we got some of these good numbers, but it's actually maybe not, helping that much to the bottom line. And we're going to put more of our focus back into podcasting.
Yeah, well, so I don't see social media clips as a way to grow your podcast. I see your podcast as a way to grow your social media, right? Because it is extremely hard to drive traffic from a social media clip to a podcast. It's basically impossible.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. It's basically impossible. But what the podcast allows us to do, and like we talked about, is to create tons and tons of content for social media. We've already covered why it's important to take it, not just clip it and post. You got to take it kind of a step further.
Yep.
Instagram's a funny one because I'm very lazy on Instagram. I'm very lazy. I almost never open Instagram.
Yeah. That must be good for your mental health. Just going to say.
It is honestly, these days, almost all my attention is on YouTube and then maybe X. I like X as well. But I just find YouTube to be I find YouTube to be the best way to, reach new audience and also create depth, because the shorts, like I had some shorts that have created hundreds of subscribers just from one short. And then that subscriber watches another AI video, I don't want to go way off the rails there. But I will give you some specifics on how I'm getting, I think on one Instagram video, we got 150,000 views.
Yeah.
We're doing a few different things. We're consistent. We're producing all the time. And again, we're kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall. I just haven't been as thoughtful on the platform. Then we're using paid engagement, paid likes, paid comments to drive engagement to start reaching new audiences.
Nice.
And I'll be frank, I don't know that that's the best way to do it. It's something that I've been experimenting with. And I think there's pros and cons to it. We could have a whole discussion on that in and of itself. But the goal with that was, I don't know that you can actually play fair on Instagram anymore when it comes to podcast clips. I think you need to be doing something different because, like we said before, there's so many people posting so many clips all the time. It just gets drowned out. So that was kind of my stance behind paid engagement to boost reach.
No, I love it. I love that you share that, because a lot of people, of course, they're like, oh, I'm going to go here and do it organically and post. And it's probably going to take a whole lot of time. Right. And you might not even reach in that whole lot of time the level that you would like to. Right. Yeah. So we believe too in paid engagement and all that stuff. And I'm glad you actually shared about that. Right. Because it's eye-opening for many people that are like, wow, maybe I do need to put some budget and get my image out there. I think one of the advantages is the fact that it creates a lot of status, I will say, right? Whether that engagement comes good or, negative, positive engagement, or actually neutral in sense of revenue opportunities for your business, I think it does create a great perspective for somebody that comes and visit your Instagram that says, wow, look at that. Mark is pretty good. Like, look at all these people that are engaging or watching his videos and all that stuff, right? So for, like you said, I'm using podcasting to get social media followers rather than the other way around. I think it's a benefit because somebody that hears you on a podcast and they're like, oh, let me find out this guy. And then they go to your profile. The first thing that says to them is status. Mark has status. Look at that. Proof of concept right there. Yeah. Like, he has a following. He's consistent, right? He's pulling a lot of views. And obviously their mind are not going to be like, how is he doing this? Like, we think like that because we're in the business, right? We're trying to obviously grow accounts and all that stuff. But for them, somebody that looks at this, that's the proof of concept. And if it's somebody that's also interested in working with you, it's probably that little nudge that they need to, book a call with you and, give you guys an opportunity.
Yeah, I think, Mark, you mentioned a couple of things right on that. Obviously, a very, cool example and case study of what people can start doing. And it doesn't have to be a big budget, right? I think, we started a football show not so long ago. I think the first wave, we've on a break after 5 episodes. We need to get this guy in the studio. He's been traveling like crazy. And I remember we're like, okay, we've never really been on TikTok except just like posting for the podcast or Content is Profit, just that. And it's almost like the app is not even on my phone. That's how crazy it is. We just put the clips out there and see what happens. Now with a football show, I wanted to really test see what happened like with the clips right from the get-go. So we publish about 6 to 9 clips completely organically, see what happened. They got some traction because we leveraged the Copa America, we leveraged the World Cup, things that were happening in that world, right? So people were having, they were attaching to the conversation. And then I'm like, let me put in some money behind some of these clips. And I think specifically one clip was about $20, the other clip was about 10. And immediately that account blew up. It went from like zero to like 50 followers within a couple hours, right? And you're like, very interesting indicator, right? And like you say, it's like, yeah, throwing spaghetti on the wall mixed with something that I really like and enjoy, or the type of content that you really like to create, for example, mixed with a spice of paid. What happens? Well, you start seeing some data that's really interesting. I mean, like, well, what's this doing? Is this driving some traffic? Is this driving engagement? Like, do people react better to this type of content versus the other type of content? So now you start collecting data in a faster pace. And again, it doesn't have to be a massive budget. And I think more people have to start paying attention to that. And, just yesterday we had a conversation with people here in the studio that we just ran a test of clips that they were not doing clips. It was a political show, right? And we're like, this is very polarizing content that we can just put out there and see what happens, because, the opinions just divided, especially, in this time of year. And they got really good results. The channel traffic went through the roof. But guess what? When we had the meeting of checking and they actually saw the clips, which are things that they said that came out of their mouth that are already published on the long form content, they got super scared and they asked for those clips to be pulled down. So now it's like, what's the issue there, right? Like, we need to be willing to test these things out. And if it comes out of our mouth, right, and is approved for final publishing, we should be okay by putting that out. So it's also, I think, a matter of like personal, almost like inner growth. I think this is a flawed mindset, because 100%.
That mindset to me says nobody's going to listen to my podcast anyway, so I don't care what I say.
100%. I'm with you. You have no idea how incredibly frustrated I was after that conversation, because I'm like, this has the potential to like, first, reach more people. Second, probably help and attract the people that you want to attract in whatever platform that you're on, right? And I think that has to be a lesson for a lot of people listening. It's like, we should put that aside, right? If we are going to publish, we need to be okay with sharing as much as possible of our message, because it's our duty to help the people that we're trying to talk to. So anyways, I could go on a rant on this.
Courage is rewarded. Courage is rewarded. You need to, and quite frankly, if you're not saying something that is upsetting some people, you're probably not saying anything that interesting. I had James Altucher on my show.
So cool.
And I asked him in 2020, he wrote an article in, I think it was the New York Times, but in a big magazine entitled "New York is Dead." Everyone's leaving New York. It's dead. And he got a lot of people were not happy. People did not like that he wrote that. And I asked him, do you regret writing that? And he said, Mark, when I write an article, if I'm not worried what people will think, I don't write it. I don't publish it. And I was like, wow, you
That's
need
the standard. Yeah.
And to be fair, that might be a cause of a lot of the problems that we have today, because everyone's just trying to piss everybody off. So I think there's a balance, but you need when it comes to talking and creating compelling content, you need to be able to get a rise out of people's emotions.
Yeah.
There needs to be a rise of emotions.
100%. Dude, I think we could be talking about content 24. We might have to do a part 2 at some point. I know that you live close by. We might have to drive to you and do it there on location. I don't know. I know that you're coming to, the city of the parks soon. So we might have to like meet you there. But Mark, this has been incredible. I really appreciate you coming on, man, and sharing this message. I think it's going to excite a lot of people. It's going to motivate a lot of people to if they're not using AI and leveraging it the right way, they're going to connect with you. Yep. We're going to put all the links right below. Is there anything else that you want to share before we head out?
I mean, we touched on a lot of topics. I would just say, if you're not using AI in your daily life now, you're not going to be relevant within the next 5 years. Now is the time to start experimenting. It really does change everything. I started using AI. I quit my day job 3 months later. Every time I talk to my team, literally every time I say, listen, if there's a new tool that you want to try out, let me know. We'll test it out. Do you like it? Let's test it out. My newsletter, people respond back. Hey, Mark, have you tried this tool? I'm like, nope, but I'm gonna. Yeah. That sounds awesome. Because the reality is you're not going to know what works and what doesn't work. There's a lot of tools out there that don't work. There's a lot of AI strategies, I think, that don't work. They're not ready for prime time. And so if you're not in it, if you're not testing it, you're not gonna be first. And the world's changing. I think it's yeah, I don't know. It's incredibly important. That's why I'm glad that my mission to help 1 million people thrive with AI just got a little bit smaller, because now we got Lewis on board. Now it's 999,999. Yes, let's go.
Let's go. I'm glad I could help in there.
From hater to lover. What's it like?
From hater to lover. We need to make a cool edit on that one.
Yeah. Fonzie, is there anything you want to add before we head out?
Just grateful, man, Mark. Thank you so much. I know we threw some, I feel like, hard questions at you, and you took them like a champ.
Whose standards? Mark is like, no, man, that was easy.
Yeah, you asked the easy questions, you know? Somebody has to carry this podcast, and it's okay, guys. I'll do it. I'll do it for the team.
Pick a bro. You know where to vote. Pick a bro.
But Mark, no, it was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. And I'm pretty sure we'll have you back in here, you know, for some updates on AI, the newsletter. Maybe we can do a newsletter specific podcast, right? We're very interested in the newsletter world. Actually, one of the best performing episodes we've had in Continuous Profit is about newsletters. So, you know, maybe in a couple months, we can bring you back to get an update on yours, how it's growing, how you're growing it, you know, maybe some of the results you've seen.
Yeah.
I'm into it. I think email is probably one of the hardest things to do. Everything is hard. Yeah, everything is simple, but it's hard at the same time. So anyway, love. Thanks for bringing me on, guys.
Absolutely. Guys, with that said, thank you so much for tuning to the Continuous Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at BizBrosCo.
That is right. If Mark here turned you in from hater to lover of AI, please don't forget to share this episode. And of course, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.